what you want to say about Gil Navarro. We don't need to have an opinion about that.
I'm going to disagree with you that you can blame my remarks because I'm doing it under general public comments.
Yes, but I would like you to be careful about what you are saying.
I understand that you would like me to maybe say something different, but I would like to go ahead and continue with my comments. So essentially, the superintendent is spending taxpayer dollars litigating versus educating. And I have said this to this board many times, as well as I have protested with fellow parents on this issue, specifically related to special education dollars. And I will point out a brief example that recently happened at the West End SELPA, where there was a meeting mandated by federal law, and myself, as well as another parent, Christy Burchick, were attending this meeting as private school representatives, and we were denied access to the meeting. We were blocked, the entrance was blocked by a West End SELPA employee. When I filed a complaint on this behavior, the investigation done by the county superintendent of school staff was completely turned around, and a civility policy was cited, claiming that I was rude just because I had a dissenting opinion, and I pointed out that the district attorney's office had issued 2 opinions that said meetings of the West End SELPA are open to the public. Now, in my theme that I was explaining earlier of the cherry picking of legal opinions, the letter that I obtained cited many outdated cases relating to freedom of speech, but it failed to point out a very important case from 2011, the Westboro Baptist Church case. And I will just read a couple of sentences from the Supreme Court and what they said about freedom of speech. And it said, the Supreme Court ruled that a grieving father's pain over mocking protest at his Marine son's funeral must yield to First Amendment protections for free speech. All but one justice sided with a fundamentalist church that has stirred outrage with raucous demonstrations contending God is punishing the military for the nation's tolerance of homosexuality. The 8-1 decision in favor of the Westboro Baptist Church of Topeka, Kansas, was the latest in a line of court rulings that, as Chief Justice John Roberts said in his opinion to the court, protects even hurtful speech on public issues to ensure that we do not stifle public debate. And I think the issue here is the stifling of public debate that does not fall in line with the view of the superintendent of schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a second request, and this is from Mr. Tom Rivera.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tom Rivera, and I just retired a year ago from Cal State San Bernardino, and I've been a teacher for 47 years, and part of that I've been also an administrator at the university level. And this afternoon when I saw Gary, I hadn't seen Gary in a long, long time, and he assured me that this building was handicap accessible. However, if I go to the microphone, Gary, I'm just pulling your leg on this one, okay? Okay. I can't reach the microphone. I can't reach the microphone. So, Gary, you owe me a breakfast at Leland, okay? All right. I, too, am here to support Gil in his quest to stay on the county school board. I've known Gil for 25, 30 years, and all through that time, Gil has been a cheerleader for kids that cannot fight the system or the bureaucracy, or do not have any understanding of the system or the bureaucracy, and do not have the information to be able to do so. And he's been a champion for not only those students, but also those kids and parents that are in that situation, and particularly the ESL students that comprise of our district. And as you know, if we look at K-12, K-12 enrollment of our schools, at least 25 to 30% of those people that Gil works with fall into that category of not being able to communicate well in English and also understand the system. Now, Ms. Luth has mentioned the opinion by the legal office here in the county, and it's just an opinion, ladies and gentlemen. It's an opinion that will be presented in court, and the judge will decide whether that opinion is legal or not legal. And as Ms. Luth mentioned, there have been other cases where board members have held dual positions on the water board and also the school district, and I think it's been ruled that it is possible for a person to be able to hold both positions. And thank you very much, and Gary, when I get that breakfast, okay? And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. A third person, and I regret I'm not really confident of the first name, but Rivera. And what is your first?
Lily.
Lily, and I just, the way it was written, I couldn't tell, yes.
You know, as a teacher, to be accused of illegible handwriting, that's sad, but I apologize.
As a teacher
Probably
being
correct.
accused of not being able to read handwriting.
I apologize. I apologize.
Don't worry about that.
I do want to remind you, Madam President, that there is already precedence for allowing members of the public to specifically name people on boards for whom they have information that is possibly just a private opinion, but nonetheless that is airing concerns that may sound like criticism or may be outright criticism. That we do have, as members of the public, the right to name names as we come before a board, that it is not considered outside of our right to speak as members of the public. I am here to express very serious dismay at the request of Dr. Thomas to find evidence that Mr. Gil Navarro would not be able to serve on this board and on the water board. In a sense, it's an abuse of his power to take on a request that isn't coming directly from the public. And I say it's not coming directly from the public because due process says names must be cited when we are charged with a conflict of interest or a breaking of the law. And in this case, the newspaper, which is my only source, I confess, did not mention that Dr. Thomas had specific names from the voting public that had questioned Mr. Navarro's ability to serve in a non-biased manner on both boards. I would ask the board, because I'm sure you will be asked by Dr. Thomas, I would ask the board that when you consider whether or not Mr. Navarro can serve, that you would accord him the very same respect you would accord any person who is not a thorn on Dr. Thomas's side. And that is the expectation based on previous behavior in this board that he would recuse himself from voting on any issue either here or on the water board that could possibly be considered a conflict of interest. You would want that for yourself, and I ask that you assure that that happens with Mr. Navarro. Now, as a member of the Hispanic minority in this community, I have to tell you that it is the mere threat of abuse of power that stops us from addressing people like yourselves that have the power over our children. I can't tell you how many times teaching colleagues have approached us and explained what they see as improper, unethical, immoral, illegal behavior that limits the rights of students. And these are behaviors from our very own employees as members of the teaching or administration in our school districts. Just the thought that someone will call an attorney against them, someone in power like Dr. Thomas, is enough to keep them from saying a single thing to advocate for children, especially those children who come from poor families, who come with perhaps problems with learning, especially the special ed students, and of course even many minorities. They hesitate to address any concern, even if they feel they have ample evidence, because there is the threat that they will be fired, they will be demoted, they will be denied promotions. It's simply that threat, and that threat comes because they see evidence such as Dr. Thomas requesting the council to give him an opinion. As my husband, Dr. Tom, has said, we have to remember that that opinion is an opinion. It is not legal law. It is an opinion, and it is for you, when Dr. Thomas proposes to do away with Mr. Navarro's position, with him in the position of trustee, that you understand it is an opinion, and you owe it to yourselves and the community to weigh the opinion from a very, very objective perspective, not to accord the attorneys undue power and respect simply because they are attorneys. Rather, you should view them as equal to you, possibly trained more, but not necessarily any brighter than you, not necessarily always any more well-informed than you, especially on complex issues that hardly ever come to the board, such as this one. I speak primarily on behalf of Mr. Navarro because I am a very, very strong advocate of the work he does for those parents and those students and those teachers and those administrators who do not get fair treatment. Obviously, others on the board do this for other people. I don't know. I just know the cases that have been brought to my attention that mention the good work that Mr. Navarro has done for them and how he has assured that these students with disabilities, these students without a voice, are given their right to an education, their right based not just on what the instructor or the administrator wants, but on what the law demands that these students be given. That's all that Mr. Navarro has ever done. And in his work with students and parents and teachers, I am sure that it at times antagonizes people, that he is perceived as an unwelcomed entity. And yet, he has yet to be found to be unjust, rude, or wrong. I ask you to remember that the very same things that you would want for your children are the things that he fights for. I would ask you to remember the very right you have to recuse yourself from conflicting issues is what he deserves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a fourth. Miss Christy Burgess.
Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. Well, I first wanted to open with not too happy about this new location. I got a ticket. There's a policeman set up. There's a little trap there. Completely unfamiliar with this area. Apparently made a left where I wasn't supposed to. So I don't know if other people were affected, but the cop is set up out there like a little speed trap. Not a speed trap, but a trap for giving people tickets for turning right here. I wanted to bring to your attention a couple of things today. First, there was as Ms. Loof had pointed out, there was an investigation done by the county regarding a private school meeting at Weselpa that I attended as well as Ms. Loof. And I had requested after the meeting that a uniform complaint was submitted on behalf of, for the purposes of conducting an investigation on the employees that were involved in the situation. And what transpired was not really an investigation of the employees, but more an investigation on the parents that attended and any of the non-public schools or agencies mentioned, rather than the actual employees. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention, that it was conducted internally, and I mean the chances of an internal investigation showing that employees of that same entity had done any wrongdoing are pretty low. So that just makes sense to me. And hopefully the board will look into that situation. In Ms. Loof's investigation report, it had stated that I didn't contact the investigator, but I had another person that I was working with on my complaint. So I had already contacted them, and so that was erroneous. And the other issue that came up was that certain employees were mentioned as making certain allegations of things that happened, but they were not named. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention as well. The other issue I wanted to bring up today is about the legal opinion that was put forward about Gil Navarro from County Council, and it seems to be lacking in its opinion, because they didn't give all the information they should have given. There's a process by which a person can be removed from the board, and that was not mentioned in the opinion through something called Waranto, I believe it's called. And that wasn't mentioned, so I wanted to make the board aware that the legal opinion was lacking. And I fully support Gil Navarro staying on this board as well as the water board until, if anybody wants to remove him, they should go through the process, the legal process that's been set up. And so I simply wanted to bring it to the board's attention that that particular opinion was lacking and not complete, that there's a process. And if, removal is wanted, go through the process. Thank you very much.
Now, the other three persons who want to speak to the board are in relation to the charter schools. And so does anybody want to speak now, or do you want to wait? We'll wait. Wait? Okay, everybody. All right, thank you very much for those excellent presentations. And we will now be over to item number 6 on the agenda, which is the Crown Ridge Academy Charter School Revocation Appeal. We're